This is Valley News Live at 10.
Good evening, everyone. We begin with breaking news. Former mayor of East Grand Forks, Lynn Stouse, is dead after battling kidney disease. He was 77 years old. Stouse served as mayor of East Grand Forks for more than 2 decades and was instrumental in the city's recovery from the flood of 1997. He served until his health made him decide not to run for re-election. His funeral will be held this Friday at 11 a.m. at Hope Church in Grand Forks. Visitation begins at 9 a.m. New tonight at 10, schools across the country are dealing with staffing issues, and tonight 2 of the biggest districts in the state are eyeing retention bonuses for staff. Valley News Team's Kellen Harmon tells us how one local district approved a change.
The West Fargo School Board unanimously approved a stipend to give a one-time payment to all staff at West Fargo schools. It's entailed as stipends for $500 for full-time educators working over 30 hours a week, $400 stipends for part-time, and $250 stipends for substitutes who worked in the district in the 21 to 22 and 22 to 23 school years. It's something administrators say is just one way they can show their appreciation to their educators who took on additional stress and responsibility due to the high number of unfilled positions last year.
And the work that our educators do, they don't get what they deserve financially, and so if we can give just a little back, I think it shows that we care, and if we had more, we would definitely give more, because we have the best educators in the world.
According to the board, the stipend will come with no raises to property taxes, as the estimated cost of over $1 million will be covered by pre-budgeted ESSER funds, which are awarded to school districts for financial impacts from COVID-19. Reporting in West Fargo, Kellen Harmon, Valley News Live.
And Fargo Public Schools tell us they'll bring up a similar proposal during their board meeting on September 27th. Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson joins us now with a first look at your forecast. Hutch?
It's a mostly moony Monday, Stacy, and I got to tell you, it was a warm one at that, with temperatures that really soared. And not only if you look out in the eastern sky will you see a fairly large, just past full moon out there, but if you take a look at the brightest star just up to the right there you can see it from our South Fargo location. It's right over here. That's Jupiter. So some things to look at in the eastern sky as we head to bed tonight. Not much in the way of cloud cover. Quiet conditions for all across the valley heading into the nighttime hours. 58 Jamestown, a little cooler for Babe the Blue Ox, 54 degrees. And temperatures for the rest of us near 60, near 70 still in Hallock right now. Cold front though on the doorstep, and it's knocking. But notice we don't see a lot in the way of clouds or shower activity associated with that cold front. So for now, we're watching these wind directions, and we're going to see overnight in Fargo the shift direction to happen after we head to bed tonight and closer to about the middle of the night, 3 in the morning or so. It'll happen a little earlier up north, and it may be briefly gusty with gusts over 25 miles per hour as temperatures will fall, but not so cold. I'm not anticipating frost scraping activities for anywhere first thing in the morning, but this cool front will have impacts on our Tuesday forecast, and we'll have an idea for you on what you can expect in your hometown coming up here in your hour-by-hour forecast, Stacy, in just a moment.
All right, thanks so much, Hutch. New interrogation video was the focus for 12 jurors today in the 3rd day of the trial of Arthur Chauley. He's the man accused of the deadly attack on 14-year-old Jupiter Paulson, which took place in the Party City parking lot in Fargo last June. Chauley told detectives he smoked meth the day before the killing and sometimes talks to himself, both of which he claims makes him not remember things. Today, jurors got a look at that for themselves as cameras caught Chauley talking and singing to himself in an interrogation room.
Walking in the woods, walking in the woods, walking in the woods.
Testimony will resume tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Officials expect it to be the last day for the state to call witnesses, but it's still unclear if Chauley will take the stand. We'll continue to bring you the latest from the courtroom. You can also follow along on your VNL News app. You can download and use it for free. Just search VNL News in the App Store today. A Cass County judge has sentenced a man to 20 years in prison for shooting 3 men at a downtown Fargo bar last February. 44-year-old Brandon Grant was found guilty by a jury of all 6 counts against him, including attempted murder and aggravated assault. Security video shows Grant inside the Bismarck Tavern, where he was punched multiple times. A fight then broke out, and court documents say Grant pulled out a handgun and shot the 3 men. New tonight, several fire departments battled flames at the former school in Nash, North Dakota yesterday. In a Facebook post, crews say the fire was called in around 12:30 a.m. They were on the scene for more than 5 hours. The school had been closed for more than 10 years. Investigators are still trying to figure out what led to the fire. Continuing coverage out of Minnesota now, where more than 15,000 nurses had been threatening to strike, and today that happened. Nurses from the Twin Cities and Duluth began a 3-day strike. 16 hospitals are involved. There have been large picket lines forming from hospital to hospital in St. Paul.
We were willing to negotiate all weekend long. The negotiating team last met with the employer on Friday. We were willing to stay in the wee hours of the night. The employer decided that our offers were too far apart and that there would be no motion, no movement, so they decided to end it and leave.
This nurses' strike is said to be the largest private sector nurses' strike in U.S. history. New tonight, the North Dakota Long-Term Care Association met to address what they're calling overreach by the CDC. They got together today in Fargo addressing mandates and policies in regard to COVID-19 in long-term care facilities compared to standards held in other places. Among their concerns are mask mandates and 10-day quarantines.
We really want to do this for our residents and our families because, and our staff. They have gone through enough in the last 2.5 years that it's time for them to get back to normal and just resume life as it was.
As for the next steps, they'll be sending letters and meeting with state leaders and the governor to ask them to take their concerns to D.C. The service members on the North Dakota and Minnesota Honor Flight are wrapping up a full day in D.C. They first went to the National Archives, then the Navy Memorial, where all the men in the Navy gathered for a group photo. Then they went to the Air Force Memorial. This was built after 9/11 and gives a view of the Pentagon, where a plane crashed into the building on that infamous day. The veterans eventually made their way to one of the most solemn places in the nation, Arlington National Cemetery. That's where the Valley Today's Jordan Schreier caught up with a vet who survived a deadly attack. Now he's thankful to be alive and see the changing of the guard and the final resting place of his brothers and sisters in uniform.
Arlington National Cemetery and the Tomb of the Unknown.
It is requested that it remain silent and standing.
It makes you reflect on how short life can be.
Amazing how the guys are fighting cancer from Agent Orange and all these other things, and it's just we're getting to the age where you're dropping like flies.
Especially for veteran Dan Higgins and his son Randy from Rock Lake, North Dakota. Dan didn't know if he'd make it to this day. During a battle in Laos on March 20th, 1971, his helicopter was hit by enemy fire.
And of course, there were AKs coming through everywhere.
He says instinct just kicked in.
I was 20 years old at the time, and it was just a matter of trying to survive, do what you had to do to, as quick as you could do it, to get it out.
He thankfully survived that harrowing day and even continued to serve his country despite the mental wounds.
It scares you, it's hard to explain exactly what adrenaline and thoughts go through your head at the time, but yeah, I thought we'd had it.
Now on this trip, his son Randy understands how his life could have been so different.
Eye-opening, especially for the age that those guys were when they were overseas in Vietnam. Just to know how close he was to being shot down, or he was shot down, but how close he was to being captured. Something could have happened. I mean, I wouldn't be standing here today if he didn't do what he did out of bravery and saved other people and grabbed the maps and everything like he's supposed to and made it out of there alive.
But Laos wasn't Dan's only battle. 48 years later, on the exact same day, March 20th, 2019, his health would become the new fight.
It was the Widowmaker is what I had. Everything was blocked up.
He underwent a successful triple bypass, and his mantra of doing what needs to be done is still serving him all these years after he served our nation.
Was pretty lucky. We got out alive anyway.
In Washington, D.C., Jordan Schreier, Valley News Live.
Dan thanks the Honor Flight and the people who made it possible for him. If you'd like to donate to help more people like Dan visit D.C., just find this story on your VNL News app. Later, here on Valley News Live at 10, the latest on a high school football player recovering after a serious head injury during a game in Moorhead.
And our Monday morning temperatures were mighty chilly out in places like Bemidji and Valley City at 43 to start the day. But we really warmed up this afternoon, 80s to near 90s in the central part of North Dakota. Your hour-by-hour forecast shows much cooler weather in store for Tuesday as cold front moves through. Your forecast is next.